So as we start a brand new day, we find ourselves back in Professor Oyama's office with not too much gain from our experiences at the Mercy Journal, and in reality things have gotten a little bit more bizarre as Urdaka's body has disappeared from the morgue. Now, if anything, this really solidifies with Professor Oyama not only that there's something supernatural going on, but also that there's something supernatural going on in direct connection with this game. For some reason, though, he seems a bit preoccupied and not really at a loss for words, just at a general inability to put what he really is thinking into words. The good news is, well, it's a mixed bag of good news, I suppose, that he does have an additional theory as to what we experienced at the hospital. Now, when we dealt with Rico and some of the other ghosts, if they touched us, they could kill us, which seems like it would be against the true purpose of the curse itself. But the reason that he thinks that these ghosts are appearing and trying to kill us is that we are trying to figure out the truth behind this curse. That we are trying to stop the curse from happening, and that somehow this curse is understanding that and trying to actively stop us. Now, this is an interesting idea. I can't really think of too many other J-horror ghost curses that try to do something similar. Usually they try to wait for the end of the curse to go and then kill you there. This game takes a little bit more of a proactive role in that curse. Still, it's just an assumption, a theory on Oyama's part. It does allow him to get in a pun and name these ghosts, which he will call regrets, because I guess they are a manifestation of regrets. Though, I think we only really know Rico as a regret, but still, he was able to gain some information from Yutani's chart, which he metaphorically calls a lighthouse beacon. Seems a bit of an odd metaphor to make, but there you go. But yeah, it seems that coincidentally Yutani worked for a video game development studio called Utoft. Now, as to whether or not this has any direct connection to the cursed game is pretty obvious. It definitely seems like it does. But as to whether or not Utoft made the game, we're not sure at this point. Now look at that, we have a brand new game download. Let's go ahead and check it out. So for today's download, there isn't too much of a story to get across, though there is some importance to get out here. First and foremost, we get a much more chipper set of NPCs. There's no horrible sacrifice to be made. There's no wedding that has been interrupted by horrible death. Just these nice young children that are trying to get across the fact that in the game, it's almost like a Never Land with Peter Pan. There's no grown-ups, there's no authority figures, just immortality waiting. Though, yeah, if we speak to these statues, they have something of a different story to tell, but, well, all these statues are adults, so we shouldn't have to worry, right? We're not an adult. We could technically still be called a child, even though I think we're in college. But the important thing is that if we talk to this NPC here, he gives us some insight into the fact that these statues are the people that made the game. Now, you'd assume with that information we might be able to get a little bit more out of these statues, but they're pretty cryptic all around. And still, there's not too much more we can do here. I actually forgot a little bit what was the end to this scene. All you have to do is talk to every one of these NPCs and statues. But But yeah, as we've already figured out, this was not RTS to begin with. We just found this in the hospital, but from what Oyama here says, it indeed can just transfer from system to system and follow us around. So, probably need to head over to the Nakano Broadway area to visit the Utoft office. But he does ask us an odd question here. If playing the game is the only way to get the curse, or if maybe just owning the game. But we'll worry about that later. For right now, it's on to Nakano Broadway. Now, this is a real-life location in Tokyo. It is a somewhat popular shopping mall. And it's interesting that they decided to use this location. I'm not really sure how we got in here after hours, but I guess this would be the best time to visit the Utoft offices. Though it's none too soon before some supernatural, creepy instances start to happen to us. For the most part, though, we don't really have to visit the information center here. We know mostly where we need to go. It's a pretty linear path, much in the same way as Mercy General was. But there are some things to catch our interest, such as these possible mascots for the stores nearby. More importantly, though, there are a lot of regrets that we're going to have to deal with while in here. This one, though, doesn't seem too aggressive. Maybe she's just doing a bit of window shopping. Still, we don't want to get too close. Never know when they might decide to suddenly strike forward and try to grab us. But we do have a new email from Oyama. Seems that where we are going to need to head is all the way up on the 4th floor. Now, there is no real Utoft office on the 4th floor, and I assume that the reason they use the 4th floor is much in the same way that they had us stuck in the 4th train car. Just 4 is a bad luck number in Japan. Much like being in a very narrow hallway with a regret coming towards us is universally bad luck. So, this area has a number of tricky situations that you probably have to do some trial and error to figure out. This first one, well, it may seem like there might be enough room on the left or right to just run past this regret. In actuality, there is not. What you have to do is double back a little bit and just stay outside of the range of this regret. It'll just go on a little patrol here, and that will give you ample time to run past it. Because wouldn't you know it, where we needed to go was right behind that regret. It's pretty much how most of these floors are going to be set up. In addition to that, for the most part on each one of these floors, we will be getting a new email. Seems that Oyama has been able to secure us an appointment with the president. Or no, Yutani is the president, he's dead. But we've been able to secure an appointment, which is pretty close by. So 2200 hours, we are about half an hour away from that. The odd thing is that the person he talked to on the phone sounded like a little girl. Which I would leave up to question as to why that is, but who knows? I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. The 4th floor isn't too far away, even though I don't think it's that direction. But you do want to be careful as you're heading up to the 2nd floor escalator here, as do not be tricked. This crawling ghost is exceptionally fast, and you will not be able to make it to the escalator in time if you just run forward. Instead, you want to double back a little bit, and you will find that even though it is a fairly fast regret, it doesn't have that much of a lifespan, apparently. But it is exceedingly fast. I tried many times to try to get up to the escalator before it reached me, but that was seemingly the only way I found to be able to get past it, so. But that's why I do feel like this locale is an interesting choice overall. I mean, it's very claustrophobic. It sets up these instances where you don't have a lot of options to run past, but much like the Tenjin apartments, it is a real location, so it does add some authenticity to the experience. Also see some classic Japanese arcade cabinets here, leading into a nice little jump scare. What's seemingly very interesting here is this, I think it's pronounced Mandrake labeling, and that is, for lack of a better term, I would say it's an otaku store. Deals a lot with hobby paraphernalia, comics, cosplay, things like that. And I don't know if they had some tie-in with the game or just because the makers of the game really loved it, but this is a pretty accurate representation of how it looks in real life. So, well, since we have no other way to go, I guess we might as well head inside. And while this may seem like a tricky situation, this regret is on a pretty strict patrol, so we can just easily get by it. But before we leave, alright, that's enough of that. But yeah, that is the Vocaloid star Hatsune Miku, who does, I guess, a theme song for the store. But I do enjoy that they had a creepy version of it just for the game. But Oyama has a little bit more information, I suppose, for our journey to Utoft. Seems as he's been unable to find anything in the Utoft library that could match the cursed game, but it could just be that the game was never fully announced. Could be. It seems we should maybe not come out straight and mention the game. Try to get some other information from them before heading into their possible cursed library. We have finally made it. We finally made it to the death floor. Yet again, you need to be very careful. You don't want to make the turns too tightly. Though I guess you could, as we saw before, use the TS as some means of checking out to see if there are any ghosts nearby. For the most part, though, it's usually a better idea to just take things a little slowly. You never know what's around the corner. I can only assume that that's some kind of high-five store that's having a special sale. But even though we are very close to the Utoft office, for some reason Oyama is just emailing us to no end here, but this is actually a very urgent, important piece of information. And that's the fact that Utoft went bankrupt 4 years ago. They seem to be in the middle of making a game, but as to who we are going to be meeting in their office is a bit of a mystery right now. Maybe it, like Oyama says, it could be the people handling the liquidation, but I don't really see the liquidation taking 4 years. But we will be getting our answers soon enough, as we are at the Utoft office. And as you probably assumed from the get-go, things are not totally on the level right now. Seems pretty much deserted in here. But we're going to ignore some of this for right now. We're on an information gathering mission here. We find, first off, something about a Project Sun being about family love. Could be the game we're playing? Speaking of which, we have a game update. So as we continue, we find that we are in the same meadow that we left off in before. This time, though, those friendly NPCs are gone and we're just left with the creepy developer statues. The good news is that they do have a little bit more information to give us, though it's not super helpful. It honestly seems to echo a bit in regards to what things like Odaka and Riko said. Not in that they want to love us, but just that they seem oddly happy with their status as statues being locked forever in their game. Still, I like overall the discordant chiptune music and just the overall feel of this as the statues slowly start to migrate south. This gives us a feeling that something is off, but as with every other area of the RPG sections, we do find a new item. Also, this statue gives us a familiar name, Ikuto. That was the name of the husband from the previous chapter, but as to how an NPC could somehow be at fault in this situation seems a bit ludicrous. But after we talk to all 4 statues, it gives us this strange option to check the ending. I assume to check the ending of the game, so we might as well check that out. And though it doesn't show us the real ending, it does at least show us a jarbled mess of credits. There is something of importance, though, in this credits sequence, though, and it's going to be near the end. We get a few of the names of the people that were turned into statues, but most importantly, we see that the director's name was Ikuta. Along with that, we do get another email from Oyama. And he gives us some additional information. It seems that the president and producer was Utani, and he had some irreconcilable differences with Ikuta, the director of the game, shortly before the company went bankrupt. Could very well be that that is the key to everything going on, so I guess we should probably look around the office a little bit more, get some information on Ikuta. And that means that we are going to have to search through some papers. Though it's not going to be as simple as that. First and foremost, you can kind of hear in the background, but there is now someone entering the office. But the more difficult part is the fact that we have to figure out which of these papers in this tempest of papers is the kind of stuff we need to look for. Now, right off the bat here, we can find some information about Ikuta taking a week off for bereavement and also stepping down as the director. But before we rush out into the rest of the office, we're just going to let our otaku friend start his patrol around the room. Now, the good news is that his patrol is pretty set in stone. He won't suddenly notice us and turn around to try to switch directions, as long as we don't get too close. And he just makes a simple circle around the room. Allows us easy enough access to pretty much everywhere in the office, but even though there are a few unnecessary documents outlining all the items in the game, it's more of a waste of time than anything to try to look for them, so we're just going to look for the things we really need to find, which is going to be located on this desk here. First we find what appears to be a map for Project Sun on top of this desk. But what we really were looking for, and I don't think we could get beforehand, is this employee register that was hidden away in the desk drawer. With this in our ownership, we can now safely leave this area and hopefully make our way out of here without running into too many more regrets. You do have to be on your toes, though, as immediately as you leave the office, you are assaulted by that regret that was waiting in the hallway. And if you don't realize that you need to not only open the elevator, but also press B2, you will quickly be set upon by that regret, and quite easily killed. But much like the Alamo's basement, as far as I could tell, there is not really a second basement level in the Nakano Broadway. So I assume this isn't supposed to actually be here. But it's a pretty straight shot to the exit. With only a minor inconvenience to get past. The idea here is you just want to barrel forward, hug to the left, and you'll barely be able to scrape by this ghost. But with that out of the way, this is our way out of Broadway and the end to another day.